very welcome to Black and Gold Overtime. I am Andrew Clay, and we're going to go 30 minutes talking about the Steelers' loss to the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. I think Nick Farabaugh of Penn Live is going to join us here in just a little bit. The Steelers coming off a 31-17 loss, and I'm not going to lie, that was ugly. That was about as ugly a football game as you could imagine, and the mental mistakes are concerning. They are wildly concerning that the Steelers are making these silly mental gaffes. And I want to give someone like Caleb Johnson a bit of a break for being a rookie and not knowing the rule there, because that's clearly what happened. I mean, he just thought it was going to bounce in the end zone and be a touchback like it would have been in college, but mental mistakes are unforgivable in the NFL, especially when you're a team that likes to pretend like you're a disciplined franchise that has rule and order and things like that doesn't happen to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, you know what? Things like that are happening to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is not been a great start here for Pittsburgh, especially in what we just saw on Sunday. So let's talk about that. Nick Farabaugh of the Penn Live. Let me hit my right buttons here. Nick Farabaugh, Penn Live, joining us now here. Nick, woof. That's my word, woof.
Yeah, it's a fair one. You go back and watch the game, and it wasn't like a fluke, right? This game, they should have lost by 20 or more. Like, they really did. Go through all the stats, and you just see...
It's awful.
It's funny because it's like there was this NFL history in this game, and the Seahawks sucked at this for the last 20 games, but this game, it was really good. Next week, it's probably going to go back to doing that. The Jets had the same thing happen last week. Like, it's a very odd commonality that's been coming up the past 6, 7, 8 games or so for the Pittsburgh Steelers dating back to last year. They got thoroughly dominated on both sides in the trenches. They didn't run the ball. They didn't stop the run very well. They didn't pass the ball very well. They didn't stop the pass very well.
No.
They made a terrible special teams gaffe. The only thing you could say they won decisively was the kicking game, I guess. Ball's was perfect and Myers missed one. Like, that's it. This team was thoroughly outmatched by a team that, I'm going to say this, I don't think is that good. Like, I don't think the Seahawks team is a world-beating team. They might not even make the playoffs. I mean, to be quite honest with you, they are not in an easy situation out there. So to get dominated so thoroughly by two mediocre offenses in the Jets and the Seahawks, that's concerning. That's very concerning for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their coaching staff.
I think the one thing that probably bothers me the most is that, or at least the smoking gun in my eyes, is the Jets. I was a big supporter of, hey, look, the Jets played really well against the Steelers. The Jets did absolutely nothing against the Bills yesterday. And now I'm sitting here wondering if what we saw in that Jets offense was just completely created by a Steelers defense that looks lost. And you hear the players after the game, they don't seem very confident. They don't seem very happy. And they seem very frustrated. And we're in week number 2. That's early to be frustrated.
You talk with them off the record, and I think they're not happy with the coaching. They're not happy with the schematics. And why would they be? You run cover 1 and cover 3 with no disguises in the year of 2025, and you get what's coming to you. And the Torrey Horton touchdown, the very first one, was the same exact play Garrett Wilson scored on last week against Darius Slay. These guys are 34 and 30 years old. How fast do you think they're going to run against young wide receivers like this? I mean, it's just crazy to me. You don't give them any help over the top like that. Up front, they're thoroughly just getting dominated. But on top of that, Keanu Benton is not a nose tackle. We know this, and they continue to make him a nose tackle. Peyton Wilson, who is a guy that you thought would have that year 2 leap, has not. Benton was the same guy last year. And I just don't know how many times over the last, 2 or 3 years, Andrew, we've just kind of said, oh, this guy's ready to be the breakout star. And then it just never happens. Where's the development of your football players? And in fact, something we've seen more and more recently is guys going elsewhere and finally getting their shot and playing well. Think about Kevin Dotson, for example, was on the Steelers and then became a Pro Bowl guard over in Los Angeles after being a guy that was super up and down and just okay in Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of things wrong with this football team. I think coaching's a big part of it. I think the players aren't getting put in a good position. And I think defensively, especially, that is becoming a boiling point among the players and the coaches.
I don't want to sit here and overreact because it is week 2. I think Aaron Rodgers said it best about 3 years ago, RELAX, right? But what we saw on Sunday is everything we feared we were going to see last week. Why did we see it Sunday, but we didn't see it against the Jets?
I mean, I think that, what you kind of saw against the Jets was a secondary that blew a lot of coverages on bootlegs for the Jets. There were a lot of wide open plays that they kind of made for the Steelers. It was good, kind of design actually. So I think Arthur Smith deserves his credit for what he did against the Jets. But when you start covering things up and you don't have an easy button, that's where things get tough, right? You got to either have playmaking ability outside of structure, which I mean, Rodgers, to his credit, tried as much as he could. It's not his forte anymore, but he had a few plays there where he did make some plays happen outside of structure. Or you kind of have to find something new that you have to utilize, right? Whether it is a different play action concept, whether you need to throw the ball down the field, crossing routes. The Steelers never really did anything different. And so what we kind of saw was just, I think, the natural regression to the mean. The Steelers in the Jets game, I mean, Rodgers had an average depth of target under 5 yards. He wasn't pushing the ball in the field. They got a lot of gains off the yards after the catch part of the offense. Once teams come down and take away the quick game, it's really hard if you're not winning down the field, if you don't have a guy that can win in obvious situations where you're going to pass the ball as a route runner. It's just hard to when you don't have an easy button as an offense, and the Steelers didn't last night.
Attrition is certainly becoming an answer or an issue on this team. But I asked the players about that a couple times after the game, and no one seems to want to point out the fact, and I'll give them credit. They don't want to make an excuse for the fact that this secondary is completely rebuilt, already without a couple starters. Then you lost guy after guy after guy throughout this game on defense. Do you think it's fair to point some fingers at the fact that this team isn't healthy and there's just so much attrition right now?
I think some of it, but it's not all of it. Listen, I mean, they are missing Harmon and Elliott and Highsmith, and those are good players. But I do think that it's not just a one-player fix when you look at this. We saw the Steelers getting shredded with Highsmith and Elliott in the lineup yesterday. Is Derek Harmon really, that big of an influence that he's going to change the luck of the defense when he comes in? I don't think so. I do think he's a good player, but I think it's crazy to think that your first round rookie all of a sudden is going to make you, a top 10 defense. And if he is, then very odd roster construction. And the Steelers certainly, I
Or
don't
he's a
think
really
feel
great
like,
player.
right, right. I mean, listen, you hope he is. The Steelers need Derek Carmen to be Aaron Smith right away. I mean, that's truly like what they're going to ask him to do. So I don't see that happening. I think he's going to be a good player, but I do think when you look at what has happened, just getting beat up front, getting beaten man to man with a lot of regulars, guys like Jalen Ramsey having off days, guys like Cam Hayward not doing much, TJ Watt being oddly silent through 2 games, like just a lot of odd things really racking up here for the Steelers. Some of it's injuries, but it's not all of it. And the thing is, they didn't have any bad communication errors. It's not like they were busting coverages like they were last year, right? Down the stretch where it was just wide open guy, wide open guy, wide open guy. They were just getting out schemed and beat through the air and on the ground.
Were you in on Patrick Queen or Peyton Wilson's locker room conversations?
No, I wasn't. I went over to PQ afterwards and talked with him one on one.
The, there was a sense of frustration and anger. And I know one of the reporters kept asking, and I think it was Brooke Pryor for ESPN, kept asking these guys, like, are these new issues or are they old issues resurfacing? And they just kept saying there were new issues. And I think Patrick Queen just kept saying, like, I'm not going to talk about that. He kept deflecting questions directly, kind of asking him to point out what was going on. what is happening? You're saying it's maybe schematics. Like, you shouldn't see guys this angry this early.
I think it's just such basic schematics. The Steelers run so vanilla defense that if you're any average offensive coordinator in the league, you just dot them up and see kind of how you look at it, right? So, for example, they just run so much spot drop cover three and basic cover one, which is just man to man with the single high safety, that it's easy for a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator to look at that and say, well, all I have to do is draw up a man cover beater. And they did that multiple times last week against the Jets. And then they did it again this week. I mean, the Seahawks ran a lot of the same plays the Jets ran and just diced them up with the same thing. I mean, it was the same play. That's the thing. It's not like the Seahawks said, we're going to do something new and we're going to beat them with their own flair. They took exactly what the Jets did in week one, copied and pasted it, and it still worked. That's bad, man. That's a bad coaching, not making those adjustments. I do think that the Steelers are not. I also have kind of heard from the players that it doesn't feel like they're being hurt. You know what I mean? I think that's another thing is I think some of these players are like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. We see this, we can do that. And just they're just not doing it. They're just playing basic cover three, cover one. Sure, they send blitzes. The blitz rate's been upped, but they don't ever disguise the blitzes. You and I mean, yesterday we're sitting next to each other in the press box, Andrew, and we were saying, "Oh, here comes the blitz."
Yeah.
We knew it was coming. It's never disguised. Everything's predictable. And when you are so predictable and you don't change the picture like that, and you just play basic coverages, it's just so easy for NFL offenses. The Steelers are the only team in the league that doesn't do this. They are they were last in disguise rate last year, and they were last in disguise rate to start this year through 2 games. It is not a surprise the teams are dotting them up.
I think when an NFL team can just copy and paste the other team's game plan, that's how you know the scouting report on your coaching is pretty cut and dry. But you mentioned predictability. It was that way on offense as well. Let's dive into the offensive side of the ball on the other side of the break. You're watching Black and Gold Overtime on your home for Black and Gold Nation. Back here on Black and Gold Overtime. Apologies there for the delay. We're talking with Nick Farabaugh from Penn Live. The Steelers' dreadful performance against the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday afternoon. We just talked about the defense. Nick, let's talk about the offense. Aaron Rodgers, I think at some point late in the second half at 100 passing yards. He once again did not seem to have a great rapport. I think that's my concern is I don't think he has a great rapport with these receivers yet. And my concern coming out of camp was I thought the big difference between watching Mason Rudolph's reps and watching Aaron Rodgers' reps. Aaron Rodgers, the ball comes out of his hands just differently. It's next worldly the way the ball comes out of his hands. But I was concerned in camp on how slow the ball came out of his hands. It showed to me a lack of chemistry with his receivers, not knowing where the next route is, not knowing when guys were actually going to be open. I thought that really has kind of reared its head in the first 2 weeks, and it was a problem yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a degree, listen, I thought the protection wasn't nearly as bad as people were
Agreed.
making it out to be. I
Agreed.
didn't. I thought some of it was coverage sacks. I think sometimes, when Rodgers just went down, there was no one open. I think I was like, okay, there's the lack of a receiver too, that you look at. They don't have a natural route runner that just gets open and wins. Metcalf is a up and down roller coaster ride of a wide receiver one, much like George
Understatement.
Pickens was. We're talking about a guy that isn't a great hands catcher. Sometimes he can have it clang off his body a lot. We've seen that happen twice, or really through each game so far. We've seen this running game not have anything working. And so I do think it's an issue, and I do think Rodgers at times has turned down a throw here or there as well. You see some of Rodgers' limitations, on the last pick over the middle, you just see the ball kind of sail on him a little bit. He doesn't have the accuracy he once did. So you're starting to see some of the limitations that Aaron Rodgers has at this stage in his career. Still can be a dynamic player, still can be fun to watch. You saw that throw to Fryermuth too. We can't overlook that. That was a beauty of a throw that should have been caught. And his pass catchers didn't do much to help him. But I do think, the offensive line is getting scrutinized, and I actually thought the offensive line was kind of fine yesterday, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I thought protection was fine. I thought Rodgers held onto the ball too much, and his receivers weren't getting open. And to me, I guess my concern is if you don't see your receivers open in your internal clock like that, do you not just go to your check down? And I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing Rodgers move off his first or second option very quickly to the check down. And I think that's where yesterday, I think all 3 sacks, or at least 2 of them, were coverage sacks. I'm concerned there about the speed in which he's processing what he's seeing. And I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched enough tape on Aaron Rodgers over the years to know if this is just his playing style or if this is a lack of comfort with what they're doing.
Well, I do think part of it is he still thinks, he can get out of the pocket, extend the
He
play,
can.
make play, and every quarterback wants to play hero ball, and Rodgers could do that for so long, but he hasn't moved the way he used to. We saw that a few times against the Jets. He ran into the first one yesterday, just trying to get out of the pocket, and guy sheds the block, boom, you're down. It happened. It's happened a few times, and Rodgers kind of has to accept that he is no longer, 30, and he can no longer move like he once did. So I do think that's an issue. I'm not sure, the reads are necessarily a huge issue. I think he's missed a few, but I also, when you talk about check down, for example, a lot of these plays they're keeping in the tight end and the running back. Sometimes it's only a 2 or 3 man route combo, and there is no check down. And in that case, if I were to tell Aaron Rodgers something, I would say it's okay to throw the ball away. You know, it's okay to throw the ball away. And the issue yesterday was he had to kind of put himself on a pedestal. You want to make things look easy for him. Things were easy for him against the Jets, right? He didn't really ever have to step out of the kind of guardian and put on the cape. He never had to become Superman necessarily because there's a lot of easy. The screen game yesterday was brutal. He deaded at least 3 screens in the dirt just because they weren't open. You saw the quick game kind of get smothered because the Seahawks came down. And then I think what he needs to be willing to do a little more is, hey man, you got to push that football down the field. Otherwise, teams are just going to sit up on you guys, and they are going to take away the quick game stuff, and that's not going to be open. And so I think that's something he has to learn. You have to keep these defenses honest with the way they're playing you because the Seahawks played in too high stuff all day, and then they didn't get out of it at all.
Are you surprised the way they're using DK Metcalf kind of in that middle intermediate route only? DK is not a guy necessarily known as the greatest route runner, but he is certainly a physical guy who can play down the field. I mean, once he gets going, he is the definition of an immovable object. And I'm surprised we haven't seen them take a couple just shot balls to DK down the field. And is that maybe just a product of that's where Calvin Austin's specialty is, and you can't be running 2 guys on those same routes over and over again?
It's crazy that an offense this fast feels so restricted to like the first 10 yards. It does. And listen, I think some of it is Rodgers isn't great down the field anymore. His accuracy is sporadic. He can definitely make it. The ball will get there and has plenty of velocity. But we saw last year with the Jets, he would spray it all over the place. It's either a dime or you're like, whoa, where's that going? So I'm not surprised they're not, but they have to do it essentially with how defenses are playing them. Listen, Metcalf was a guy that didn't get utilized to his full potential in Seattle. They kind of made him just run deep routes and say go. Um, and I think he can do that, but I also think he can catch, drags, crossers, screens, and kind of things that get yards after the catch going and become a real weapon for the Steelers in that respect. So I would like to see them throw, 1 or 2 just balls down the sideline for DK and say, hey, let's see what happens. Maybe we're going to get an explosive play out of it. Maybe we won't, but this is our best playmaker by far on offense, and we're going to see what happens. And so I'm not surprised they're using DK in kind of this yak intermediate to short role, but I also think it's kind of an overcorrection. See, ask any Seattle fan. They were begging for the Seahawks to run crossers and slants and screens with DK just to see what he could do yak wise. On the opposite side of it with the Steelers, it's like it's okay. It's okay to throw DK a fade. Like let's see what's going on here. I know DK for his size isn't an elite contested catcher, but he is still big and physical, and we saw it manifest itself twice yesterday where he made really tough grabs in traffic.
You mentioned though running and catching those crosses and those drags. He's got to catch the ball first, Nick. He's got to catch the ball first. 2 hands, bring it into your body. That has been an ugly weakness so far.
The issue with DK is he doesn't catch it with his hands. He body cradles it. He's a body catcher, and if you're a body catcher, you always leave yourself susceptible to drops. You're never really that great of a catcher through contact. You want to catch the ball like this. We're taught like that all the time, right? Not like this. It's like he's catching a punt on all those passes. It's just like coming to your chest. And when that happens, it leads to what you see with DK Metcalf, which is inconsistent hands.
The Body Catcher sounds like the name of a Stephen King horror movie, The Invasion of the Body Catchers. Hey, let's take one last quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up with Nick Farabaugh. You're watching Black and Gold Overtime on your home for Black and Gold Nation. Back here on Black and Gold Overtime, where we'll wrap things up with Nick Farabaugh of Penn Live. We appreciate Nick for joining us to talk about the Steelers. Nick is one of the best X's and O's guys in this business, especially on the Steelers beat. Nick, I just want to talk about some of your observations here in these last about 2 minutes. What really stands out now as the Steelers turn the page to Week 3 and head to New England?
Yeah, I mean, you think about the fixable things, and I think that's kind of the big thing is utilization of players, kind of figuring out where Keanu Benton fits in well, how to get the linebackers free, trying to help out your secondary that's not exactly fast anymore. I just think those basic things offensively, it's like, how do you kind of just ride the wave of Jalen Warren more, right? Like, just keep utilizing him. How many times yesterday, did they just take him out and the drive just died? It happened way too many times.
I think you leaned over and told me that like 3 or 4 times in the middle of the game. You're like, Jalen Warren's off the field. They're not doing anything.
Right. It's like, listen, Kenny Gainwell is like the new Cordero Patterson. It's like you throw him on the field, the drive dies. It makes no sense why, you don't just get the ball to Jalen Warren more and more. And if they think they need a backup running back, listen, it's not like the market is not lush with them. Running backs are very easy to find. So go hold some tryouts if you really want to. Actually, I think Lou Nichols is a nice little piece, and he's on the practice squad. So if you want to try him out, I would. So that's a big one. I do think, seeing this offensive line try and grow, like I thought Broderick had a good game, and I thought Fautano actually didn't. It was kind of the opposite of week 1. So how does that kind of work itself out? But to me, the real observations of this game is really all coaching and how you make things easier for your players, because this team is not as bad talent-wise as they have looked. There's a lot of talent on this team. There's no doubt about it. The coaching is just putting them behind the 8 ball right before they even see a snap every single week.
I think that's the most concerning part of this is that it is a very talented team. They spent a lot of money on making sure this was a talented team, and this is what we've seen so far. About 30 seconds. Concerns with Caleb Johnson's start to the season? I expected more out of him.
I did too, and he just doesn't look like he's ready for the speed of the game. His eyes are going everywhere. Not knowing the rules is a real deadenant to everything.
Is that important?
Yeah, it's concerning.
It's important to know the rules.
Easy part of their job, actually.
I thought clock management was, but coaches have been botching that for years. Well, hey, this has been Nick Farabaugh on Penn Live, from Penn Live here on Black and Gold Overtime. We appreciate him joining us. Again, we're going to be having Steelers reaction every Monday following a Steelers game right here on your home for Black and Gold Nation. For Nick Farabaugh, I'm Andrew Clay. We appreciate you watching.